Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and another video. So today we are going to be doing the March reading wrap up. Over March, I managed to read apparently 8 books and 1 DNF. We're just gonna get straight into this video because it's probably going to be a long one. The first book that I did read was one that I read on my Kobo, which was Summer Reading by Jen McKinley. This is like the first book I believe in. I wouldn't say like a duology, but I think it's more like a interconnected standalone series. We focus on our main character, Samantha. She is a chef. She's just left her job, but she also gets asked to babysit her half brother back in her hometown. So she goes back there for the summer, basically just planning on having like a really good, fun, easy summer before she has to like work out what she's going to do work-wise because she's not having to pay rent or anything like that. Her dad and stepmom have left money for her so that she can look after her brother, who's like a teenager anyway and really unhappy about this arrangement, but like he's really quite intelligent, is in all these advanced programs. And whilst she's there, she catches up with her best friend who's having some health concerns as well. Then she also meets this guy, Ben, who is like the manager of the library where her younger brother goes to do his robotics course. And they sort of develop a relationship, and he's also there on the island trying to work out who his dad is. And there's some connections between him and Sam. I rated this book 4 stars. I thought it was really enjoyable. This is the first Jen McKinley book I've ever read. I stupidly, when I was doing my March TBR, was not aware that she is an author of like well over 70 books. And I thought she was just sort of new-ish author, so that's my bad. She's very well established. I've gone through her entire back catalogue and basically pulled out a handful of books that I think that I would enjoy reading. A lot of the stuff that she's written previously, I don't think it's up my alley, so I'm not interested in reading it, but I definitely want to pick up the sequel that focuses on the best friend because she's a librarian and she ends up going to a different country. She's got a narcissistic mother, so I'm excited about that. I enjoyed this one for what it was. My biggest complaint was that it was like 600 pages on my Kobo, and I just felt like at times it dragged on and went for just a little bit too long, if I'm being honest, and I feel like we could have wrapped things up a little bit quicker. Samantha and Ben a couple times had this lack of or no communication trope going on, and I really just can't stand that one. Like, you're grown adults, just talk. Like, it's not that hard. But yeah, overall did enjoy it, would recommend it, and it was completely not, I think I said this is gonna be like beach read, nothing like that. Oh, that's right, Samantha has dyslexia as well. So I thought that was really interesting to have that at the forefront of the novel, and you know, explain a little bit more what happens in that because, well, what happens with that with dyslexia, because, you know, it advised me of things that I didn't even know about dyslexia that, you know, I'm not really, I say that like I'm incredibly knowledgeable on it. I'm not, but I thought it was like done really well, and the book is also like dyslexia friendly. So I thought that was a really cool aspect to this book. Yeah, like I said, I definitely want to pick up the sequel at some point, just don't know when. But yeah, 4-star read, thoroughly enjoyed it. Then the second book that I picked up was Fable by Adrienne Young. Now, this is one of the books that is on my 25 books that I want to read in 2025 challenge. This is the first book in, I don't want to call it duology because I feel like there's a prequel and another book, but this one was a little confusing at times. It didn't take me very long to read it, but we basically focus on our main character, Fable. Her dad is like a trader out on the oceans. I got really confused by the ages. I thought for most of this book that she was actually 14, and I was really creeped out by the relationship that was developing between her and a captain. Turns out she was actually 17 at the time, and I misread when they were talking about her age, which made me feel better because he was like 19, 20-ish, and I was really creeped out that he was kind of falling for a 14-year-old, but that was just my bad. So anyway, what happens is that Fable's mother ends up dying in like a storm on the seas, and there's a shipwreck, and Fable's dad was basically so madly in love with her, obsessed with her, that he just can't cope with the fact that she's no longer in his life. He doesn't know what to do with Fable because she very much looks like her mother, so he makes the decision to leave her on this place called the Narrows, and she is basically stuck there from the age of 14. She's abandoned, she's orphaned, and she has to learn to survive for herself. And in order for her to survive, she goes out into the open water, and she basically goes like diving for like jewels and stuff, gems. She then trades, and she's trying to get enough money so that she can actually get off the island and go and find her father, because that's been her obsession since he abandoned her. But this book just felt like a very nothing book. The entire book just focuses on essentially a bunch of teenagers who have their own ship that's in league with her dad, and it's all about just trying to get to her dad, and then we eventually get there. I couldn't tell you what else happened. I didn't understand the purpose of this book, didn't really enjoy it. I did rate it 3 stars, but it was a very meh read for me, to a point that that I'm going to read the sequel Namesake because it's on my TBR card. It's also on the 25 books I want to read in 2025 challenge, but I just wasn't like fascinated with it. Like the pacing was all off. I didn't really understand what was going. I didn't enjoy it. And as such, if I didn't have the sequel, I wouldn't go out to buy it or read it. I'm only reading it because I already own it. But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in this one. And at this stage, wouldn't look to pick up another book by this author. That's kind of where I'm at with Fable. It was just kind of like, I feel like this is a book that I probably would have enjoyed like 10 years ago when I was younger and into this sort of genre. That's better. I'm now in the middle. And then the third book I read and picked up is the one that I'm going to say is my favorite from the month of March, which was The Wedding Engagement by Zoe Allison. Now, this is the, I guess, second book in an interconnected series. I don't remember the name, but I'm pretty sure it focuses on like their town. But the first book is The Xmas Holidays. This one, they basically just focus on this group of friends, and each book is just going to focus on a different couple in this friend group. This one we focus on male lead, main character. We focus on his twin sister, Liv, and the male lead is Aaron. He's basically a single father. He was engaged. They were literally about to get married, and his fiance basically almost left him at the altar. She's now gone and gotten herself in a new relationship, and it's about, you know, him and her also trying to balance their co-parenting relationship. Liv has always had a crush on Aaron, and she's just trying to be there for him, be a friend, and help out with looking after his son as much as possible because she absolutely adores him. The kid is adorable, and she is also going to be his school teacher when he goes to school. And it was just really sweet and cute. Also in this one, they're planning the wedding of the main characters from the Xmas Holidays, which I feel like it was Maya and Sam. But yeah, it was really cute to be back in this world. I enjoyed Liv and Aaron. I thought they were great. I feel like Liv was a fantastic main character. She's very badass. I did feel sorry for her at times because their father basically walked out on them, didn't want anything to do with them. He's a narcissist, abusive, and he kind of comes back into the picture but only wants to know her because he wants to be invited to the brother's wedding. But that kind of sucked. I did rate this one, did I say? 4 stars. So it was cute. It was fun. By chapter 3, I feel like we knew who the next book is going to focus on because like there's this one other girl in the trio of best friends and one other guy, so and they've got like this tension, this sort of enemies sort of thing going on, but it feels like she hates him but he's in love with her. If it doesn't focus on those two, I'm going to be wildly confused because it was set up really well on this one. And in the Xmas Holidays, they set up this one really well. So I feel like that's kind of the relationship that's going to develop in the next book. And if that's not the case, I'm going to be disappointed. Overall, this was my favorite read of the month and I had a great time with it. And I'm really glad that I got to read it and it came out. And then the third book I read wasn't actually a book. It was a novella. And it was The Situationship by Abby Jimenez. This one was just really cute and adorable. It basically focuses on the best friend from Just for the Summer. So the other girl who's a nurse. It focuses on the best friend, Maddie, and then also Doug. They were basically a little bit like Doug was definitely a side character. Maddie, a little bit of a side character, but she also played a part in it. This literally is just like 60 pages of how the two of them actually met. It's very much nothing. I rated it 3.5 stars because it literally was 60-ish. Like, I don't even think I wrote, no, sorry, it was 33 pages. So like, I'm like, I can't rate this amazingly because it's literally 33 pages. It's not a full-length novel, but I really enjoyed it. I laughed out loud a lot. But anyway, I thought it was entertaining. It made me laugh. I had a great time with it. There's not a lot I can say because it was 33 pages, but if you're wanting some more Maddie and Doug content, give this one a read. It was entertaining. Then I also picked up The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez, which was a Valentine's read that didn't get released until March. So please explain because Valentine's Day is February, but okay. This was an 82-page novella. I rated it 3 stars. So essentially we have our main character Charlotte and then also Seth. They both live in this apartment block and one day discover that their stairs have been removed. And it turns out because they're a block of apartments, the tradesman removed the set of stairs from the wrong apartment and they've all left for the day and it's the weekend. No one's gonna be able to get back until Monday. The property manager was like fantastic and he got Charlotte and Seth whatever they needed, but they developed a little friendship. Charlotte, you know, likes to hide away a lot because she's got a little stalker and, you know, Seth helps get her out of her shell and, you know, lets her see that yes, she needs to live her life and yes, she had a stalker who's creepy. Shouldn't let that stop her living her life, essentially. I feel like it would have been better had it been a full-length novel. That's all I have to say. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. It needed some further explanation and I wanted more. So that's kind of all I have to say about it because like I said, it was an 82-page novella, so not much I can say about it. It was enjoyable for what it was, but I do think it should have come out in February if you're going to market it as a Valentine's Day read. Like, what you doing, Amazon? Okay, and then book 6 was actually a book that I read. And this was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Our main characters are Effie and Preston. I rated this one 3.5 stars. It was a little bit of a struggle for me at times to get through this one. So our main character, Effie, has had a pretty troublesome childhood, I feel like you could say. She has always been plagued by like visions of the Fairy King. That's because her mother basically left her out to be taken by the Fairy King because she was a difficult child. She basically lives in a world where magic is kind of real and there's these two warring sort of countries. Women are not allowed to attend college. She's the first woman to ever get into the architecture college. She really wanted to apply for the literature college, but they don't accept women. There is this very famous author who wrote, it's got a name and it's the name of the female main character. I can't pronounce it to save my life, so I'm not going to bother. But basically, this challenge is put out that they would like an architecture student to redesign and save the author's crumbling house because he's never taken care of it. And she wins this competition and she gets basically taken to this mansion to help design the house. And there's also a literature student there, Preston. He didn't win the challenge, but he's there to investigate the author because there's theories floating around that he was from illiterate parents in a fishing village. People do not understand how he had the education and intelligence to actually write this really wonderful story. And so he's there to investigate to see whether or not the author is a fraud. I want to say that I did find the scenes when she was at university really, really dull, and everyone thinks that she's only there at the school because she's sleeping her way through. I just felt really sorry for her. Like, she's had a horrible home life. Her mother sucks. She's then gone to college. She's been sexually assaulted. Then all the blokes at the university like hate her but think that she's a whore and therefore that they can also sleep with her. And I just didn't care for it. And then she finally went to this world and I thought it was really obvious as to whether or not this author was the author of the story. And I won't lie, at times it was a little confusing as to whether or not she was crazy and whether the Fairy King was real and whether she could actually see him or not. Overall, 3.5 star read. I just felt like it dragged on and then it ended very, very suddenly. And that was it. It was all resolved. It was wrapped up. Felt a little lacking for me. At this stage, wouldn't consider picking up another book by Ava Reed. I know she's got another one out, but like I just didn't enjoy it enough to warrant picking up anything else. It was interesting. Like, I'm glad I have read it because it was one I purchased last year and I didn't want it to drag on to my TBR for years, but overall that's just like a bit of a meh read, I guess you could say. And then book 7 was The Dating Game by Sandy Barker. This is also a book that is on my 25 books that I want to read in 2025. We focus on our main character, Abby. I don't want to call her a journalist, but she's basically a writer for like trashy magazines. She actually writes for an online company magazine. I don't know what to call it. I don't consume them, so I don't know. But she basically does recaps of all of the reality TV shows under a fake name, and they're super, super popular. Her article that she writes on The Bachelor, essentially, it's called The Stag, but just think it's The Bachelor, gets the attention of the producers, and they decide that for the next season, they want her to actually write about the episodes, like release them the day that it's coming out. So in order for her to do that, she needs to be on set. So they want to send her on set, but they just don't want her to be one of the production staff. They think that for her to get the actual gossip, she needs to be one of the contestants. And so she agrees and she goes. And luckily for her, this version of The Stag is set in Australia. Half the does is what they call the females contestants. Half of them are British, half of them are Australian, and it's set in Sydney. I rated this 3 stars. This book was a little bit of a letdown. I felt like it dragged on a little bit, but like I had like beef with this. I don't understand why she had to be a contestant, because they sold it as a case of, we want you to get like the inside scoop and all the drama and stuff, but then they would let her watch the episode and her recap had to be written based off the episode. So I didn't understand what was the point of her being a contestant, because she can't write about any of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes or that's not being aired, because then everyone would know that she was a contestant. So to me, it made no sense to actually make her a contestant because she couldn't write about any of that stuff. So it just to me seemed pointless to have her as a contestant. You may as well just have emailed her a copy of the episode prior to it going live. Just bring her in on those days to watch and write her things. I don't know, to me, didn't really make sense. I feel like you could have had her have been a production staff because there was no point to her being a contestant other than to create some drama. I thought that was pointless. I will say that in a lot of these style of novels, when it's a Bachelor style show and someone's going on it to be a contestant, not to actually fall in love, the main character always falls in love with the stag, and I was really relieved that in this one that was kind of not the case. But for the most part, I just felt like it dragged on. I know that there's other books by this author, but like I wouldn't pick them up. I didn't really care for Abby as the main character. The love interest was Jack, who was not the stag. They also had miscommunication tropes because he works on the production. He's like the producer, and they had a lot of miscommunication tropes because he got jealous that she was having to go on dates with the stag, and it's like, mate, what did you expect? Like, you knew about this from like before it was even planned. I thought it was stupid. I just did not enjoy it and wouldn't pick up another novel by this author. It was just like, I'm glad that I've now read it, but like honestly, it'll probably be on hold. And then book 8 that I read was From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is one that I think I've had on my TBR for like 4 years. Hence why I put it on my 25 books that I want to read in 2025. I have hesitated to pick this book up just because it's always felt like it was going to be a really long read. Like it's 485 pages, and contemporary/romance books that go for that long, to me, it just gives off bad vibes because like, why is a contemporary romance book going for over 400 pages? To me, it just feels like it's going to be a slog. But like, what are we doing in a contemporary romance book to warrant going for nearly 500 pages? I did rate it 4 stars, so I enjoyed it. I do understand the hype. Focus on our main characters, Jasmine and Ivan. They are both figure skaters. Jasmine and Ivan both also skate in the pairs part of figure skating. They've always sort of competed against one another. Jasmine has always kind of choked during competition. She's very talented and skilled at figure skating, but when she goes to compete, is always let down. A lot of the choreography that they do has always been what's best for her male partner, not necessarily what best shows off her skill set. She also has a learning disability as well, which makes things a little bit harder for her, and she's got to work a little bit harder to remember her choreography. And then we have Ivan, who is currently probably one of the world's best figure skaters at this point in this story. He has like 2 gold medals, and his figure skating partner ends up taking the season off. So Jasmine is asked to pair up with Ivan just for the year to compete because he doesn't want to take a year off, and her partner has like ditched her the year before and she currently doesn't have one. Problem is that her and Ivan have known each other since they were very, very young, and they have a little bit of like a hate relationship. They always pick on one another. They're snarky. They have a go. There's a lot of banter. They basically hate one another, but it's mostly she hates him, but he's been in love with her for years. And it's basically just about them learning to skate together, because a lot of times when you get a new partner as a figure skater, you have to take the season off because it takes some time to learn how to skate to one another, because you've got to be in sync and all of this stuff. It's something hard to learn. It's just about them actually developing a friendship, and then the sort of realizing that they're actually in love with one another. And it was cute. It was sweet. I'm glad that I read it, and it was cool. It was fun. I would anticipate picking up another book by Mariana Zapata. I did attempt to read a 9th book before March ended, but it was a DNF, and that was The Glass Spare by Lauren Di Stefano. Now, The Glass Spare, I actually put on my January TBR, but I just never got a chance to reading it. I attempted to pick this one up. I read 30 pages. I couldn't tell you what the hell happened in that 30 pages. I then attempted to read an extra 30 pages, and I got to page 60 and I went, I don't know who the characters are. I don't remember anything that's happened in the last 60 pages, and I'm not retaining anything that I'm actually reading. I don't care about this storyline. I don't care about the characters. I don't know what's happening, and I'm just going to DNF this book because I genuinely don't care. So this is my first official DNF for 2025, and it's okay to DNF books, which is what I'm going to do, and I'm probably going to look to unsell this one at some point, but just wanted to say this was a DNF for me, so it is coming off the TBR, which is a positive to DNFing a book. It means I don't have to physically read it, and it comes off the TBR anyway, so it's kind of a win-win. Alrighty guys, so they are, I guess, the 8 books and 1 DNF that I had in the month of March. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, but I will see you guys next month for another video. Bye!